Welcome to the Fantasy Football Brothers podcast. My name is Blake, and I'm here with my younger brother Carson as we discuss important news heading into the Week 11 matchups and recap the Thursday night game. Carson, how you doing?
I'm doing very well. I'm sure you're feeling even better though with your Patriots winning 25 to nothing against the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah, baby.
This is
7-4.
ridiculous. It's like the Patriots were down 25 in that Super Bowl, so then they just went up 25 and didn't let the Falcons score anything.
Yeah, I mean, talk about poetic justice.
Yeah, this was ridiculous for this Falcons offense. I mean, the Patriots defense had 4 interceptions, one of them being a pick six. But what's strange about this is that the Patriots are in very good form, but as Blake told me earlier, their two highest scoring players were their kicker and their defense. So as far the fantasy production really didn't spread out evenly past that. Everyone else kind of did mediocre, but this whole team, as far as the NFL is concerned, is doing very well.
Yeah, well, it really came down to this. They only scored one real touchdown. The rest were defensive or field goals. So
Yeah.
it's going to be limited upside for all of your players whenever that's the case. I do want to quickly note that it's a real tough look for this Falcons offense without Calvin Ridley and Cordero Patterson.
And Kyle Pitts can't even do it all on his own, but he wasn't even the receiver in this offense that had the most targets. Russell Gage had 8 targets, so he woke up again. He didn't have an amazing day, but it's better than his goose eggs he's had in the past, in the past week, and as well in week 9, I believe, or week 8, one of the two. It's awful if this team needs Patterson and Ridley, and even when they had both of them, it's not like they were super successful, but they just look like awful without them both.
Yeah, they really do. I mean, and here's a big takeaway in terms of a fantasy player that you may have been rostering. Mike Davis, you have to drop him.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't even know who Q Allison is, but he had the most carries in this offense, followed by Case Smith, tied of Mike Davis. So these no-name players that are above him, I feel really bad. I feel really bad for people who drafted Mike Davis thinking that he would be like a safe RB2, because he obviously did not pan out to be.
No, not whatsoever. And kind of a similar, and obviously not to the same extent, but it was a little disappointing to see Ramondre Stevenson and Damian Harris kind of split touches for the first time in the season.
Yeah, do you think that this is them just not rushing Harris back into it? Even though, I mean, they're both coming off the head injuries, but Harris didn't play last week. Or do you think this is more to come?
I think that's certainly a possibility. And I think the other part is that Stevenson performed so well in Harris's absence last week that, obviously he proved that he can get the job done when it's solely on him, or at least more so, he's doing the majority of the carries. But yeah, I think it may have something to do with Harris coming back off of injury, not wanting to rush him out there. He was experiencing the same thing, a concussion, as Stevenson, and they thrust him into the role immediately. So I could see it going either way. To be honest, it's something that we'll need to monitor moving forward. It really limits the value of either one of those players individually.
Yeah. Agreed, and obviously, unfortunately, Bill Belichick doesn't care about fantasy when he's deciding how to run this offense. I wish he did, though. And Mac Jones, I read something. I don't know if it was the first rookie ever, or it was some sort of record where back-to-back games with a completion percentage of 80 plus with at least like 15 passing attempts. So, I mean, he's not getting a ton of yards. He had a lot of touchdowns last game, and I think he had 3. This game only had 1 and then 1 interception, but his completion percentage is ridiculous.
Yeah, he's super efficient, and in fairness, they're not taking a lot of shots down the field.
Yeah.
That's not really the identity of this offense. It's very ground and pound and slow and steady, but his 1 interception was a downfield shot, and it was kind of a bad pick. He kind of threw it up into traffic, and so that was a little disappointing to see. But, 22 for 26, 200 yards. They got the job done, obviously. They have a strong defense. They have a strong running game. And so, from a professional quarterback perspective, I'm thrilled with how efficient he's being.
Yeah. What do you make of Nelson Aguilar leading this team in receptions and getting the sole receiving touchdown. Like, can you trust any of these pass catchers as far as fantasy is concerned?
I wouldn't say so. I mean, certainly not Aguilar. This is
No.
probably going to be one of his best games of the season.
That's what I
But
mean, though. Just the
that
fact that he led the team, though, in receptions and getting the touchdown is what I
well, you
mean.
got to keep in mind. You got to keep in mind that the Patriots were dominating this game in all
Yes,
aspects.
it's
So,
true.
not a lot of reason to throw a lot, and especially in the fourth quarter, it was a lot of running. And I mean, the whole game was a lot of running, but they were just really good from a professional standpoint. From a fantasy perspective, not a lot to cheer for unless you're playing in a league with kickers and defenses.
Yeah, so I'd say don't panic. I mean, I wouldn't go after Aguilar. I would keep Myers. He's rostered in a decent amount of leagues. I still think Bourne is a good pickup if he's on your waivers. And Henry didn't get a touchdown. Boo hoo. But I expect him to continue to get production. He just didn't see it in this game. So, I'm not reaching for Aguilar, but those few people that we've talked about in this offense should have better days ahead. I mean, they're not going to be dominating like games like this, unfortunately, for you, Blake, every single week.
Hey, you never know.
You never know. All right, do we just want to go ahead and transition into news?
Yeah, let's jump into it. So I think we kind of talked about this before starting recording, and we've got a few big stories here that we want to lead off with. First of all, Amari Cooper has tested positive for coronavirus, and since he is unvaccinated, it mandates a 10-day quarantine, which means that he will not only miss Week 11 against the Chiefs, he will also miss Week 12 against the Raiders on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, that's definitely interesting. I saw that you picked up Cedric Wilson in our league. Do you think that that's an advisable move to make for people that are needing a pass catcher?
Well, I mean, it hurts a little bit because Michael Gallup is back.
Yeah.
So I would have liked Wilson a lot better if Gallup wasn't back yet, but he's probably going to get involved. I mean, especially with two guaranteed games without Cooper, I think that maybe this opens the door a little bit more for Dalton Schultz to get more involved. Last week we saw him really struggle, and maybe it was due to the return of Gallup, but on top of that, it's just a lot of mouths to feed in that offense, and having a number two pass catcher in a high octane offense like the Cowboys is not a bad option.
Yep. The next piece of news we can talk about, and this is devastating for me, Chris Carson to undergo season-ending surgery. That's just really disappointing. I mean, he hasn't played since like week 3 or 4, but hasn't played since week 4, but I was holding out hope that he'd come back last week, maybe this week or next, and then they just ended the season. It was so annoying just seeing this team go from like he was a game time decision in week 5 to now in week 11, hoping he'd be back, and then now he's a season-ending injury. So it's disappointing.
Yeah,
for sure.
well, hopefully the surgery goes well and it's not such a chronic ailment that he's dealing with. Moving forward for his career, because we've seen him be effective. Like he's always top 15, I would say, at his position, and
yeah, he's always been a very underrated, like high-end RB2.
yeah. So
Eyes.
hopefully the surgery goes well and it kind of, takes care of whatever he's been dealing with his neck, because it has been something that has kind of bothered him for a few seasons, it seems, and so hopefully that gets taken care of and he's back next year ready to go.
Yeah, and I mean, Alex Collins has had this backfield for 5 or 6 weeks and hasn't been riveting. He's had some good performances, but I'd say you got to pick him up if he's on your waivers. Somehow someone in our league picked him up last night before this news, but
Off of dumb luck, yeah.
But again, like this, it's not like you're picking up Madison and Cook going out for the season, or Pollard and Zeke going out for the season. Collins has had this backfield. It's not like, oh, this is a must-have guy, but he's worth rostering for sure.
There's no denying that, and I would argue that maybe it hasn't been as good of a role for him with Geno Smith at quarterback.
That's true. That could be a part of it.
So with Russell Wilson back, and obviously last week was a bit atrocious, but he'll get back in form, and this offense will get things rolling. And so you're getting a starting running back with a waiver pickup, and that's like for the remainder of the season presumably. So that's always a good option, something to go after.
Yeah, for sure. Alvin Kamara ruled out for Week 11 with the same ankle injury that ruled him out in Week 10, I believe. That definitely hurts this offense, but I guess you expect Mark Ingram to do well like he did last week.
Yeah, roll him out. He's going to be a good DFS option, I think. And I don't believe we talked about him in that episode, but I like his opportunity. We saw him get it done last week. I think what did he have, 18.5 points about?
I think it might have even been 20, and it was up there.
Let me check that real quick. But regardless, yeah, like we said in the season-long episode earlier this week, yeah, 20.8 was his score for Week 10 against the Titans. I said if Kamara starts, you're starting him and only him. If Kamara misses, it's Mark Ingram, and that's it. So it's a good matchup against Philadelphia. You expect him to have a lot of usage like he did last week against a difficult defense, and he still got it done. So I feel good about him.
Yep. Next thing I have, I guess we could just talk about briefly. Elijah Mitchell is doubtful with rib and finger. I mean, he's become honestly a high-end RB2 with a low ceiling because he doesn't get much receiving work. So that hurts for people that have him that were probably planning on starting him. But did you have Jeff Wilson, or did you just drop him?
No, I picked him up.
Oh,
I picked him up with that news, and it looks like I'm going to be able to use him this week, and I would recommend it for other managers out there that Jeff Wilson Jr. is the next in line, and we know how San Francisco likes to run the ball, and so there's a good opportunity there for some good points.
Yeah. CEH status remains uncertain. For someone that I'm feeling like I need to play Darrell Williams this week, this could be a lucky break for me. I find it interesting. It seemed like everything was pointing towards him playing, but the fact that he's uncertain, they have to make that call by tomorrow. I mean, obviously I want him to get better, but that gives me hope as a fantasy manager having Williams.
Yeah, Darrell Williams might have one more week of usability, at least in a main role. So good for Williams managers, not so good for CH managers.
Yeah. Jeremy McNichols ruled out. Do you expect Deonta Foreman or Peterson to have value, or you think it's just going to be split carries that probably
I think it'll continue to be split. Obviously, it's better from going from 1/3 of the carries or touches to half of the carries or touches. So, yeah. That benefits them a little bit more. They both get a slight uptick, but I don't know. We haven't seen a lot of impressive outcomes from that backfield yet. So, I don't know. I mean, obviously you can increase your expectations a little bit, but I think none of them are going to break out necessarily.
Yeah. I mean, we talk about this every week. It feels like Kyler Murray's the game time decision, but Hopkins has officially been ruled out. I think I'm in a little bit of a difficult situation because both of my backup quarterbacks play at noon and Kyler plays at 3 something. So I might, I don't know. And all the quarterbacks on our waivers play at noon, it seems like, too. So I might just bite the bullet and start Cam against Washington. We'll see. That's a thing I'll have to be thinking about. Maybe I'll get some more optimistic news between now and then about Kyler, but obviously it's better than scrambling for whoever is left if I even have any option.
Yeah, the report that I saw earlier today was that he will be a game day decision rather than a game time decision. So you may find out before noon. Yeah, you may find out before 12 o'clock Central Time, but yeah, either way. Yeah, right. But yes, and then another week without DeAndre Hopkins, that should open the door for Christian Kirk to have an expanded role like he has in the last 2 games, I believe, in Hopkins' absence. From this Friday practice report, we see that Antonio Brown, with his ankle injury, did not practice. Chris Godwin had a limited practice and a full practice from Rob Gronkowski, so that's a good sign for him to be available this week or on Monday. Monitor that. Chase Claypool will play this week, so kind of not really feeling as good about players like James Washington or Ray McLeod. Mm-hmm. I think it's probably those guys go back to being tertiary roles, and I think Claypool becomes the second guy back like how he was.
Agreed. And I think that makes the flyers of Washington or McLeod probably useless because, I mean, Claypool has been there for a while, and Juju's been gone for a while. So those players had their chances, and they didn't do anything till last week when Claypool was out. So I don't expect them to do that. But hey, you never know. I mean, McLeod had led the team in targets and receptions, I think. So I doubt he's just going to go nowhere, but he probably will take, like you said, the tertiary role.
Yeah, Dallas Goedert has cleared concussion protocol, so he will be available for the Eagles. That's good.
Yes. Also signed a big deal with them today, I heard. So they're definitely locking him in as their tight end, as they should.
Yeah, for sure. Aaron Jones has been ruled out, and Alvin Lazard is doubtful. So, how do you value Marquez Valdez-Scantling, MVS?
Ooh. I think he could be. I'm curious to see what his DFS price is, and if you got nobody else to play, he might be a sneaky choice to start because I mean AJ Dillon he'll get more receptions than he probably was used to, but I think he's more of a rushing back than a dual threat like Jones was, and then so it's really just Devontae Adams. So
right.
I mean MVS has got to get something.
Maybe a Robert Tonyan game.
He's gone.
That's right.
Yes. Nothing against Tonyan. He's just the tight end TD.
I just like to tease Carson because he
prototype
loves tight
I
ends.
hate. Yeah.
Nick Chubb and Demetric Felton have been activated from the COVID-19 list, meaning that Nick Chubb will get the start. That's good news for me. It's a great matchup against Detroit. We talked about it on the DFS show briefly. With the prospects of Dearness Johnson getting the starting role. But yeah, it's a great matchup, and obviously he's going to be in a lot of lineups this week, and that's good.
Yep. The only other thing I see, Allen Robinson's doubtful, but I mean, I wouldn't encourage you to start him even if he was
probably
active.
Weren't starting. Yeah.
I'm interested, though. I was interested to see what would happen. Fields had his best throwing day. I was interested to see if, they could be on the ups. I mean, to say that you're hoping for flex value with Robinson sounds crazy with how he was valued going into the season, but that's the best you can hope for at this point.
Yeah, so how do you like Darnell Mooney and your boy Cole Kmet?
My boy. I guess, yeah, just like how I don't like the tight ends that get touchdowns. I love the tight ends that get targets. I think that they could be good plays. I think Komet's DFS value is definitely really good now with that news, and I don't know what Mooney is at. And I don't know. If you only have one flex in your league, I don't know if I'd want to start Mooney, but he could definitely. He's had games where he has a ton of receiving yards and gotten some touchdowns, so I wouldn't be surprised if he booms, but I wouldn't. I want to see another good week from Fields before I start trusting any of those pass catchers to be reliable.
Yeah, no, I get it. We can probably finish with this one, and it's not the biggest story, but the Lions list Jared Goff as doubtful, making Tim Boyle the likely starter. So I guess, I mean, do you see this going? I feel like they can only go up from Goff.
Yeah, it could be like a Mike White situation. You never know.
Yeah, that is exactly what the Lions need is a Mike White-like situation where they get their first win with Goff on the bench.
Oh, man. That would be so sad for Goff, but that'd be funny, too.
Yeah, he'd be biting kneecaps all game long.
Oh, yeah. All right, so that probably wraps it up.
Yeah, I think so. Monitor James Robinson. Are they a late game or an early game?
I have no idea, honestly. Jacksonville, I think they're noon. I think
you're right. So monitor that. Otherwise, Carlos Hyde will have an increased role. But yeah, other than that, enjoy the football games. Good luck in your Week 11 matchup, and we'll talk to you guys soon.
Peace out.